In the last few years, Kamal, what is the one film that has really like moved you?
Last few years?
Yeah.
Wow. Hindi film. Time लगेगा.
Should I go after? One of the catchphrases to describe the contemporary movement in Hindi cinema is new cinema.
Okay.
I see you're smoking. So no, and it's always like all talk of it always has to like there's this kind of optimism with this current movement.
Sure.
You know, it's like we're producing edgier, newer kind of cinema.
Yeah.
So are you as optimistic about the movement?
Not so much anymore. I mean, and I have limited my ambition to be able, for the rest of my life, to be able to just somehow be able to make the film that I want to make. I don't seek anything more anymore. And all this thing, ki cinema will change and all of that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of optimism when India opened up its markets.
But I don't know what.
So, it was a bit like that.
Oh, that bad?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you see, the thing is that I think the change that is, that we should be also to a certain degree, that we are so pleased about, I think is happening in spite of everything. I mean, and it's happening very naturally. Few people gravitated towards the medium. They came to Bombay. They made films about what they knew best, and so it has happened. It is not a very, I mean, these things are better spoken about in hindsight, frankly. But it's not like, people from Kahir Do Cinema decided to do something. And, it's not like that. I don't feel it's like that. Maybe I'm speaking too soon. Maybe back in the 60s, some
filmmakers had said that. You see a change coming about in that also? Has it peaked too soon?
I do feel it has peaked. And the only reason I'm saying this is, you see, any movement that becomes bigger also becomes diluted naturally. I mean, Yashraj is a very good example. Yashraj made a very specific kind of cinema. But the moment they became a big production house producing X number of movies, the kind of, very focused kind of cinema that they were making, that also changed. So now they are also making different kind of films. Yeah. In their own way. I mean, the quality of films have suffered of late, I feel. I don't think we're making that great. I mean, we made some very nice, with its what's and all, with its flaws, we made some very nice films in the mid-2000s.
It's petering out, no?
It's petering out is what I feel. And the biggest indication that I have of this, that I am in the market today trying to make a film. And the tone of the people with the money has changed.
Yeah?
Yes. Because
as in of late?
Of late. What has happened is that there was a time back then, filmmaking is difficult. I mean, trying to getting around to making a film is very hard, especially if you have anything that's perceived as slightly different also, even if it might not be at its essence, it's very difficult to make it. And that's true of things anywhere. I mean, it's not just like Bombay specific, it's everywhere in the world. It's very difficult. So that is there. But back then, as in, I'm not talking about too long ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I got a feeling from financiers and producers that they were not really sure what works. That's a very, very good space to be in.
And now they do?
Yeah, now they're very sure.
About what is hatke?
Nahin, what should be made?
Achha.
Kya banana chahiye? So I have gotten calls after Ishqiya, I have gotten calls from several producers who have all rejected my idea and have asked me to make a film which somebody else should be making really. I mean, you shouldn't call me if you want this film. Because, जो मैंने लिखा है और जो मैंने बनाया है, it's got nothing to do with it. So they are very sure of what to do now. I don't know, I'm not very comforting. It's not very comforting,
Right. I want wanted to talk to you about how you come up with stories. Different people obviously have different approaches. I've heard from people that somebody starts from an image, or somebody might like to start from just one idea. Different people have different approaches towards how they go about story building. Do you have a process like that?
I'm still discovering it, but one realization that has happened to me, just a complete smack in the face. I had no idea it was like that. It's basic. My process is by creating a character. So I see something in somebody. I meet somebody. I read something about a person, and he or she is a certain way, and then I build the image of that person in my mind, and make a character, literally.
Maybe that's a theatre thing, because in theatre what one does is one goes into backgrounding, one goes into historicizing the character, and through the character's motivations a story gets put well.
That has been the easiest way for me to do it, and the most exciting way also.
Give me an example.
Krishna in Ishqiya.
Achha.
I did not have a story at all. Story, I was just made it up on the fly. Fir yoga. But the character, I had worked upon the character for many years before.
A lot of people talk about script writing as a very personal process,
Right.
Whereas you have always worked in a collaborative space.
Right.
So in that kind of setup where you're always having somebody else to bounce, or where you always have the pressure of verbalizing some general ineffable thought inside your head, how does that work? Like, is that still a very personalized relationship?
Yes, the writing that we have done, when you read the credit, it seems very collaborative.
Yeah, but confusing.
It's with 3 or 4 names and all of that. But the process is slightly more different. It's not that there are 4 people in the room all the time and they're talking. It's hardly like that. My collaboration has primarily been with Vishal. So it's with him that I have spoken a lot about any script that we worked on, especially his films. If another writer has joined on and we have all discussed together, it has been for at the most for about a week, no more. And then it's been a back and forth process. I mean, where I do the basic step outline, Vishal does the dialogue, and then we all bring it together, make a final draft, maybe share it with.
But you don't go through what seems to have become an established thing of indicative dialogues and that
yeah, of course. I mean that you can't stop from doing that when you're doing the step outline. Whatever is important, a lot of dialogue comes while you're talking. I mean, so all that about it. When I make a step outline, I don't restrict myself that it has to be 4 lines per scene. No, I've written pages. I remember the opening scene of Omkara was about 3 pages, just the step outline. And
that's so. How did the Chuti aur Bewakoof mein dhage par ka fark hai?
That dialogue came many months before we actually did the script, and that Vishal said it in reference to one of his assistants, and that's how it made it into film.
Okay.
What you have to realize is that there are 2 kinds of scripts that I have written. One which has been for me, and one which I have worked as a writer for Vishal. And even Bhivani for that matter. I mean,
Bhivani is with
Tishu, Tigmanshu. So there the process is much more collaborative and we talk it out. I mean, we throw scenes at each other and all of that. Where it gets personal is that after you've finished all the discussion and you sit down and write the scene, alone. That's a very personal process because you really create that scene completely on your own. I mean, what you have is a basic idea of the mood and pace and certain details about the scene, but writing it is another matter altogether. It's not that okay, मैंने ये notes बनाए हुए हैं, I'm just going to copy these notes, organize these notes and scene हो गया. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to reimagine the scene, please. So then it becomes very personal. However, the scripts that I have written for which I intend to direct or have directed, which is Ishqiya, and the many that I have written since I have not been able to make, those scripts, those have been very, very intensely personal experiences, right from the genesis of it, and then doing a basic structure, everything has been completely on my own. It is only after it reaches a stage that it really gets into a collaborative space. But by then I really know this beast, I really know what this is about. That process, I do share it with Vishal, but intermittently. Okay, this is where I'm going, and he has an idea to which he shares. That is a very, very personal, space. Very difficult also. I mean, I enjoy. I think it's a lot of fun, and now having done about 8, 10, 12 screenplays, for other people, I'm not jittery or nervous about doing another script with somebody. I'm very comfortable with the idea. I know sooner rather than later we'll get it. But the moment I think of an idea which I'm going to direct, I'm like, it's another deal. I find it very, very.
Do you fall in love with your characters?
No, not really. It's all right even if you fall in love with your characters. I mean, what's worse is falling in love with your writing, and that has happened. And I've realized, I've created this moment, and therefore it needs to be. And Ishqiya was a learning experience like that. In fact, to the extent that I was advised against certain things, and I said, "Fuck it, I'm going to shoot it." I shot it, and then I had to cut it out. And there were some great scenes. But I mean, so if I would have taken care of it at that stage, at the writing stage, so not so much the characters, but I did fall in love with the writing.
I think a lot of post-liberalization cinema has been about it's been an experience in cosmopolitanizing, where there's always been this preoccupation with the metros, with the glossier, shiny side of the metros. But what's happened in the last few years, I think, is a distinctive shift, which is that suddenly we seem to be moving towards the rustic, indigenous, rural. And suddenly that, from the bleakness that it had been plunged into, has suddenly been recuperated and suddenly become the new cool. So you have characters who become cult figures. You have Lagra Tyagi, you have dialogues, you have setting. Sure. And do you think this has to do with the fact that a lot of filmmakers and script writers are coming from the Hindi belt?
I mean, it's a mix of a few things. Definitely, the biggest reason is because the filmmakers come from that part of the country. That's what they know best, or they think they know best. And so it's natural that they will talk about, and it's also like you said, the larger picture. If you look at post-liberalization in India, people from different parts of India coming together and making movies. It's a very natural process. There's nothing to be. I mean, we shouldn't get too shocked, surprised, or too pleased about it. It had to happen. It's a natural process.
No, I mean in the sense
but
that...
no. Let me finish. So it's great. I mean, these people have come. One of the biggest reason why these films are being made is because of this. Also, one other reason I think is, and I think it's fairly important, is that these filmmakers, wherever they came from, maybe they never spent any time in the village. I mean, for example, I've been to many villages. I mean, in my childhood, lots of my uncles and aunts got married in villages. But I'm really a small town boy, not really a village person, right? The Omkara landscape, I've seen it visually. I've spent 15 days. 15 days is really not enough to really get under the skin of those people, right? The real thing is that this was a suitable, viable alternative to the gloss thing that they were talking about. It was there. It was ready to be taken. And this is the way we could stand out. We could be different. It was almost like a reaction to what was happening. I mean, I'm talking about 7-8 years ago when all this was it started happening. This was a viable, good alternative. Let's explore that place. It's completely unexplored, And the moment you go into rural India, you have to make a socially relevant film. Let's make Bollywood over there. I mean, let's take Bollywood over there.
Like, what is your diagnosis of the moment, in the sense that one of the common things that is said is that the state of Hindi cinema is such because the money doesn't reach the talent. Ki talent bahut hai. There is a notion of talent out there, but it's just that the money is in the wrong pocket, and it's just we have the filmmakers, but just the money is not reaching them. Do you buy that?
Not entirely, no. Money is always in the wrong pocket. It's a fact of life. I mean, so ये तो बहुत बड़ा क्लीशे है. और अगर टैलेंट है तो टैलेंट को तो सिर्फ विल चाहिए ना, to make a genuine great film. I mean, let's take Lars von Trier's का जो डॉगमा मूवमेंट है, उसमें इडियट्स बनाया. इडियट्स बनाने में कितने पैसे लगते हैं? तो बनाओ ना यार, कौन रोक रहा है तुमको? Who's stopping you? People are making lots of digital films. Nothing earth-shattering. They've been nice films. Even mainstream Bollywood has made some nice films. But nothing earth-shattering has really happened. If I were to say that there is no talent, it will be too sweeping a statement and it won't ring true. But there is no evidence of it, to be very honest with you. There is no evidence of genuine brilliance. There is spark. But genuine brilliance, I can't. I don't think so. Till one point in time, I thought I will do that, but it's not me. But I'm not seeing anybody else doing it.
Right.
So
no, but do you see this current moment in terms of what has happened is that there's this proliferation of the digital technologies.
Right.
And do you see this as a moment of hope, like with the digital coming in? It's gotten democratized, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. It's a damn good thing. I mean, it's in a very small way, it's a bit like printing press,
Right.
In a very small way.
Right.
So, abhi, it's all out in the open. Anybody can do it. I mean, iPhone has 8 megapixel. Banao abhi. Now you can do it. So, it's all very great. I don't know if the quality of films are just going to improve just because of this. I don't know. Just because you have new technology available and you can make movies for nothing. I don't know if the quality of movies per se is going to improve. But the mystique behind the medium is going to, come down a little bit. And I don't...
Which is a good thing,
Which is a very good thing, of
It's
course.
a decent ring where
absolutely.
cellular nobody can access. It's too
I think
expensive.
You see, there is a group of people, they try and raise their own finance somehow and they keep making films. That's a much more small group of people. That's a much more effective and a better way of getting around to making good films. Rather than having this massively spread out industry, it's terribly organized, badly organized industry that Bombay is today. So I am happy about it, and I'm happy about the democratization of it. And I'm now, like we were talking earlier off the camera, people are making films in different parts of the country. That's very good, yeah. Absolutely.
No, but I guess it's also a question of the distribution of those films. Like we know that, like we were just talking, we know that some really exciting work is happening in Manipur. We are hearing news of filmmakers in Madurai, etc. But it's just that I don't know if these people are entering those circuits of distribution.
Yeah, the distribution is...
And that way, I guess Bollywood really has a monopoly.
Yeah. That's somewhere I heard in a studio somewhere. I don't know if it was the original statement by that guy, but if cinema is religion, distribution is God. So yeah, distribution is very important. I think internet maybe there is. I mean, I'm not very savvy about these things, but yeah, maybe internet is a way of doing it. I mean, people from the top. I mean, it'll be nice if some people from the top start making these changes. I mean, Radiohead releases its album online, right? It's the biggest band in the world today. It releases a band album online, बोलता है ले लो free में, ₹1 देना है दे दो. It still makes the same amount of money.
Abhishek, what is for you the most painful part of filmmaking?
It keeps changing actually, because whichever part I am involved in right now becomes the most painful part. But if you really want me to have like a perspective on it, I would say it's the pre-production or the prep stage. It's very painful because everything's up in the air. Everything is variable. And you have a vision which you're trying to get at, and the reality is quite something else, and the budgets are quite something else. So, this uncertainty of it all, it's very unnerving. And I've realized that before coming onto the set, I'm like really nervous and jittery. And when I come to the set, hell might come home, but I'm very comfortable because I know my stuff. I mean, I know I'm comfortable with it. I've been on set so many times. It's somehow I will, the day will pass and we will have got something by the end of it. But just before you shoot, after you finish writing, that period, I find it quite nerve-wracking.
It's like the pain of like translating what you have in mind. Is that sort of a thing?
Yeah. I mean, because all the so-called compromises you make at that stage. It's not so much in the shooting. Shooting, you're just giving it your best and executing it. But then I have visualized that the villain will run on the tarmac and get onto his plane and he's flying away while the hero drives. You don't have a plane, you don't have a budget, you don't get a location for. I mean, those kind of things. I mean, and you don't know. You constantly have to rethink, go back to your script, change things around. It's very uncertain. Everything. You're just not sure what's going to happen. It can also it should be an intensely creative space. It should be. That's how what should be. But unfortunately, it's in a mainstream Bollywood setup, it oftentimes isn't. The best hours that you spend in the prep stage is when you're working with your cameraman and your production designer and working on the palette, working on shots and all of that. That is the best way. But you get like 2 hours a day to do that at the most.
What is the script that you've had the most trouble with? That you've struggled with the most?
Like Ishqiya, of the work that we know of. I'm struggling with 4 scripts right now, and I'm like, I had a terrible time in the last 1 year trying to get these 2, especially 2 of these right. But so far, Ishqiya has been very difficult because I spent about a year from when the idea started till the first draft. I spent about a year. And it had a lot of mood and great characters and some great situations, but it had no structure at all. It was completely rambling, meandering, So I was accused of trying to make an Indian art film. So I had to do something about it. So I literally started all over again.
How many drafts did it go through?
Well, several. Must have been 15, 20. But the big thing was, embellishments and certain changes kept happening. So by that measure, several drafts. But one of the biggest things that happened was that after having worked a year on it, I completely changed the story. Or rather, I got a story into it. So it was just these 3 characters and being, okay, they are criminals and also, so something is happening, but it was all very local. I got like so everything changed. It was a complete rewrite. I think about 4 or 5 scenes survived from that draft to this.
In the last few years, Kamal, what is the one film that has really moved you?
Last few years?
Yeah.
Wow. A Hindi film. Wow. Time like. Fine. The film was in the last decade. It was Satya. Satya really moved me a lot. And it had also a lot to do with who I was at that point in time, but completely unadulterated. The feeling, the emotion that I had after watching the film was completely clean. So that kind of feeling I don't know if I've had.
But is your engagement with cinema on a emotional level? Are you the kinds who would be moved to tears with cinema?
I never cry at the movies.
You're detached or usually?
I'm not detached, but I don't cry at the movies. I've cried reading a book, but not.
In the last few years, both outside and in India, which are what is the film that you last remember for really moving you?
I was really moved. Moved? Yeah, I was really moved when I saw Piano Teacher. Couple of Hannah films, I was really moved.
Which ones?
Piano Teacher and Benny's Video. It just scared the shit out of me. So.
Before we talk about the next time, I'm going to ask you a series of quick questions. And this is meant to be slightly breezy and spontaneous. So, okay. One film that you remember for its images?
Persona.
Okay, Bergman. One film that you remember for its sound?
Conversation.
And for its music?
Music, there are many films. At the top of my head, Clockwork Orange.
One film where the script completely blew you away?
Wow. Recently I saw it. What was it? Adaptation.
One film where the dialogues blew you away?
Dialogues. Satya? I was blown by the dialogue. I mean, I remembered each and every dialogue. It was a bit like Sholay for me, frankly.
Okay.
Sholay never moved me so much, but I remembered each and every.
A really overrated film, both in here or in world cinema.
There are many of those. Sholay.
Okay. For me, what happened was that till a certain point of time, movies would be the way to make sense of the world.
Right.
Because, you know, like when one is from a middle class family where you haven't had that kind of exposure of the world, has that changed? Because now you know what's going behind.
Yeah, but in that sense, no, in that sense, I mean, movies have been, I mean, everything my deepest beliefs came from the film. You know, and not just a sense of reality, but my philosophy, you know, what a film told me about a certain thing, no guru or, you know, nothing else. No life would not teach me so much. So that was there. I mean, you know, I don't know if that has changed too much, to be very honest with you. Even today, I mean, you know, there is a lot more reality today. I mean, you know, I'm an older man now, so there's a lot more to deal with. So all that is there, but still my deepest beliefs remain what, you know, and what I had seen in a film sometime. It affected me deeply, and some truth I saw. And that still stays with me. So the genesis of that thought came from a movie rather than some true life, real life experience. So a lot of reality has hit the face now. So that perhaps is a change that's happening, and there's a lot more happening in my life all around.
That's how I meant it actually.
Yeah, that's a lot more happening. So you do. I mean, you have to deal with it. You do respond to it, and therefore it does affect you. But
no, that's what I actually meant it in a deeper philosophical level. Which is that. We were just talking about Kamal Sarup, and in one conversation he had told me and a few of my friends that filmmaking will have to be a young man's thing to do, because your relationship with the image and your relationship with cinema on a larger level changes as you're growing older. Do you see any of that coming in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it sounds true to me what he's saying, but
it does.
It sounds true to me. However, it doesn't mean that just because my relationship with movies have changed, I should not, I mean, you know, I'll make a 60-year-old man's film. I mean, so what? I mean, Robert Altman made his last film when he was 85. I enjoyed the Prairie Home Companion completely.
Sidney Lumet.
Sidney Lumet. I mean, he made such a dark film at what? 70s.
This is The Devil Wears.
The Devil Knows You're Dead. So, I mean, my relationship with it's a flux, na? It's not like कि एक बार बन गया तार तो अब यही है, यही बचेगा. It's going to keep changing. So what? I mean, that doesn't. I shouldn't stop from making films, and I hope not to. I hope to continue. In fact, I think I'm hoping that I will. There is something's got to give, as far as I'm concerned. And once that does happen, then I will. In fact, I want to turn prolific. I want to make a film a year, and I want to get in that space.
Now, I want to talk about Ishqiya for a bit, which is that now, very often the village has almost been seen as a site of innocence, especially when pitted against the larger, villainous, evil, malevolent city. You know? So there, how do you straddle questions of morality? And I mean this especially with respect to the femme fatale figure. Because I can see that it's a very conscious choice to locate this, especially within. So was this something that you were thinking of? For this business of morality and how you situate it, especially within this larger universe of Hindi cinema, womanhood, Indian womanhood.
Something that I've always believed in, even much before I thought of Ishqiya also, and something that I was aware of. Even when I used to watch Hindi films, like you said, that, you know, the picture of innocence that was, you know, portrayed in Hindi cinema, it rang completely false to me. I mean, completely false, because nothing could be farther away from the truth. Because those guys, I mean, rural India has a huge set of problems, huge set of issues. Lots of violence, and वहाँ के लोग सीधे साधे प्यारे लोग हैं. Can't be a bigger bullshit than that. They're very aware of what's going on in the world, and they're very aware of what's going on in their world. So there was no question. I mean, did not even occur to me that I have to portray this. Hindi cinema has this image, and I'm going to break this image. It was just very natural. That's how it is. Secondly, about the femme fatale bit, it's a. I also think it's a bit filmy. The character is a bit filmy in the sense it is hyper reality. It's not
Right.
yeah, it's not completely real as such. However, what I do believe, again, this is something that I've said before in other interviews also, Ishqiya interviews also, that when I spent a lot of time in UP in my childhood, and I used to, I come from a very orthodox Brahmin kind of Brahmin family. The women that I saw in my family, I mean, my family is really my folks and me. I'm the only kid, so we used to live away. But I used to go there and every vacation and all of that. So this big extended family. Women had a role to play. And it was that kind of family, ghungat yahan tak hai and all of that. So on the surface of it, the image is very clear. Who's running the household, who's the powerful guy here, and who's doing the work. But what I actually realized, because I was aware of all the politics that goes inside that home, I was aware of who's actually really, who actually has the power, who actually commands. And that was quite amazing to me. It really blew me away when that it was the women, all the politics was in and around the women, and the men were really, with all their machismo, were really quite powerless. So basically when the lights went off and the heads were on the pillow, we knew who was really running the house. That had stayed with me for a long time. And Krishna came from there. So having also a femme fatale, the femme fatale is basically a Western concept from the noir fiction and all of that. So that was there. I wanted to do something like that in Hindi movies, do that noir kind of a film but I wanted to set in rural India because it's irrelevant if I set it in Bombay or Delhi and all of that. It's irrelevant for me. The fun is if I go there.
Right.
And the character of Krishna came from a lot of women that I actually saw. In fact, the way she speaks also. And बड़ी मीठी आवाज में बात करते करते बीच में one slang word or one abusive word would come in, and it just like blew me away when I used to see that. So Krishna kind of sort of came from there. And like we were talking earlier, I built the character first.
Right.
Completely from every angle, right from when she was 15, and built her entire story. And then the story came from there.
Right.
So it was a bit of both. It was the literature that I had read, pulp fiction, and what I had seen in my own household and around. So, yeah.
No, but one thing which I think is of great interest, especially when talking about Ishqiya, is the question of genre. Now, the one thing that we were just talking outside is that it seems to be a very conscious mishmash of various genres of the road movie, of the buddy film, of the femme fatale. So was this like a कि अब मैं conscious conglomeration of genres करूँगा? Was it like that?
Completely. I mean, I was very aware of it, and I had a hard time. One of the big challenges as a director was that I can make it I can keep the flow smooth enough for that genre change to happen without the audience sort of moving away from the film. But I was aware of this, and my basic thing was that why not? I mean, why does it not work? Why is this very rigid thinking about genres? Especially the West is I think the US, especially very, very conscious of it. I mean, I've worked with a few writers who work out of America, and they're very rigid about it.
About genre?
About genre. They're very, very rigid about it.
In what?
These are certain things. So like one point of contention that was there was this, that there's a lot of humor in the film as well, right? And there are a lot of serious things in the film as well. Now, you have to make a choice. If your tone can't get too dark,
right?
You cannot have a kid say, which was the kid in my film, talk about killing and maiming, you know, because it just becomes too dark. And then that's not your film. Because what you're starting out with something, it's in the caper space.
Yeah.
Two guys, bag of money, buddy film, and then, you know, this woman, it can be a very happy, sort of a happy thriller, but you're going into a space, I mean, you know, exactly with the Naxal thing that we were talking about.
Right.
That's not a good space, you know, it's becoming too dark too early into the film. It's okay if it gets dark late. And I just did not buy it. I mean, this is just a concept that exists on paper. I mean, you know, it's just a theory, you know. And the challenge is more that the viewing experience doesn't get hindered because the film just suddenly changes its space completely. Oh, now it's a thriller. Oh, now it's a comedy. Oh, now. So that was one thing that it was a bit hard trying to control. My own personal relationship with the film, I'm not sure if I'm successful at every point in the film.
Okay.
It's my own relationship, irrespective. But that was one challenge, and I took it on, you know, head on, knowing that this is what I'm getting into, and this is what I need to do.
Okay. So one last question: What are you most unhappy about in hindsight about Ishqiya?
Mainly with the staging of certain scenes in the film. It might sound too small when I say staging, but staging is director's game. I mean, it really alters everything. So, especially towards the climactic portion of the film. I mean, climax was also criticized a lot. And I know the real problem. Because I went through it. The real problem was in the staging of certain sequences. Had I shot them differently, imagined them differently, you know, just little things if I could have done right, I think I would have been.
Have you had the pressure of being overtly political ever on you, in the sense that very often what would happen, I guess, is that when you think that you have certain ideas about the world, about how much you translate that into your work in an overt way. Like, obviously, everything would be political.
Yeah.
And I'm talking especially about that one scene in Ishqiya. Yeah. Which, you know what I'm talking about, that one scene where Arshad Warsi stumbles upon this procession. Yeah. And I've spoken to people who said that that's slightly because this is something where this is clearly quoting a conflict which is central to the country at that moment, and it's huge. Except that in the film's universe, you have, like, it never appears after that. And it's not so much a question of relevance as it is about it just being a spark of something, and you don't know where it is.
You see, I mean, one can make a film about a conflict that's and make only about that. But it is, I believe it is my right as a filmmaker to use the reality that's around me, not to make film about that. I'm using it as what? I'm using it as a plot movement, literally. Rather than making some flaky terrorists which don't mean anything, which completely, you know, I use something that's happening. And I, in fact, bended reality a lot in that, to be very honest with you. I don't know if, I really, I mean, you know, arms were kept like that. You know, several arms, villages were sitting and listening, and this guy was motivating them, let's go and kill them and whatever. I'm sure such scenes happen. Have I been witness to one? No. I know there is a conflict going on. In fact, I have placed my story in Gorakhpur. Gorakhpur is 90 kilometers away from Nepal. There is no evidence, and I knew it even before I went. There's no evidence of the red conflict in Gorakhpur or its areas. There are very few districts in UP where it is happening. Even that is now hardly there, in UP especially. But the influence, there's a lot of, I mean, there's not a Nepali influence that is there, but it's very slight. I personally believe but what is happening in Gorakhpur, like it's happening everywhere in the north, is there is a caste war. That's what I used. So I used the whole caste war thing to move my story forward. My story was essentially about three people, and I used that something, I borrowed something from reality to move my story forward. I do not see anything wrong with that. You know, if I'm talking about, if I'm making a road film, and I'm talking about the journey of two people who are traveling from one place to the other, and what happens to coming of age or whatever shit it is. I mean, and if they cross through Delhi and Anna Hazare's movement, I don't have to make my film about Anna Hazare, you know.
Right.
I mean, no, I don't have to do that. So I don't buy this, especially this point of view. That just because it's so important, your film should have been about that rather than
No, not so much. Yeah, okay. No, I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think a more valid question perhaps is
Yeah.
that how do you situate a reference to that kind of a larger insurgency
Yeah.
within your narrative? But I think
You
I
see,
know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are two people who, I mean, in fact, he comments on it after this scene. He comes and comments on it, let's get out of here. I mean, you know, because here things are something else is
Iffy.
going on here.
Yeah.
Things are iffy. I mean, you know, so let's get out of here. That is exactly the filmmaker's attitude towards the tone I'm talking about, not the exact comment, but that was my attitude towards it. There are big things happening over here. My story is about these three little people and their internal, their relationship and their internal conflicts and all of that. But around the world, things are happening, no? So they are happening. They have some bearing on these three characters, but their issues are personal.